Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the M3 Market Update. My name is Melody Wright, and today is October 20th. Thanks for joining. I try to do this show weekly, although it's been about every 10 days recently, just with all the traveling and moving around and trying to get settled. My apologies, but had some help this week. That's one of the reasons I'm delayed, is I was doing some training as I'm getting assistance with my client work. As this is just some anecdata for you, but two of the fintech companies that I've worked for recently did some staff reductions in the last couple of weeks, and so that meant that some of those people that had worked for me there are able to now come and help me. So that's really exciting because I think some of you can tell I'm a little bit overwhelmed with everything that I'm got going on. But thank you for joining. This show really tries to look at all the data that's out there in the housing and commercial real estate market and give you an understanding and context, because what I've learned over this last 3 years of just diving deep into macro and into the data is that if you rely on just 1 to 3 data points, you're never going to understand what's happening. And as I often say, real estate is local until it's not. And what that means is that if you don't understand the underlying dynamics in each of these markets, you're going to be confused about the greater path or narrative. And now it's impossible to understand. We have over 3,000 counties in this country to understand every market. But what I'm trying to do here is look at some critical markets as well as some that are special requests, keep you posted so that we can see when kind of the turn happens, when this starts becoming a more national story. 2022 was not a great year. 2023, not a great year for the housing market, but it was definitely, different depending on where you were. If you were in Austin, that market has been in pretty bad shape for some time. But then places like Minneapolis, Denver were doing better. We're starting to see slowdowns in Denver, starting to see inventory build, etc. I'm going to be out there in November, looking forward to that, to really get my boots on the ground and see what's happening. But the point is that yes, there have been some Sunbelt markets that have been impacted, and markets in California. But I think that in reality, that was just sort of like barely turning the engine on. We're really at a point with where the 10-year treasury yield is right now, right around that 5% mark. This is going to completely ice the housing market. An article in Bloomberg today saying that exact thing. We've had this kind of buyer-seller strike for 2023, but this is going to be this sells. And so I've got some exciting data today, and I'm going to try to do a little bit longer show because I promised you guys I might try to do a deep dive. I wasn't able to do that on mortgage-backed securities, but I am going to do a little bit like a part one today. But I also have the month-over-month and year-over-year Redfin data today. And, we saw existing sales kind of come in couple of days ago or yesterday, I can't remember now, but down 2% month over month and about 15% year over year. In the cities I track, sales were down more than that month over month, and right around that 16-17% year over year. So this is again, yesterday was existing sales. Redfin has a combination of existing and new home sales. And so we should get new home sales soon. We'll look at it. But what I can tell you is that very markedly in each of these, I'm around 71, 72 markets right now, a marked slowdown. There were only a couple of outliers that you didn't see it in. So I've got some new exciting kind of Redfin month over month home sale, home price data we'll talk about. Because a lot of you guys know, honestly, focusing on home prices right now, I think, is a fool's errand. I think for the next couple of months, we'll continue to see higher prices, but then in certain areas, and I believe that likely Florida is where a lot of this is going to happen, is as you have people start to list their properties because they're the super prime and they're looking around and saying, you know what, I don't want to pay 4 times what I paid last year in insurance, or I've got 2 properties, I'm on a fixed income, I don't want to worry about taxes, insurance, upkeep costs. I'd rather take that money and put it in, kind of short-term treasuries, money market funds, and make 5% on my cash. And so I think you're going to start to see people list their properties for these reasons. We're already seeing it in many markets, but I think Florida is probably where we're going to see it the most. And I believe that in this very frozen housing market, we are finally going to start seeing some of those price reductions. Here where I am in Johnson City, Tennessee, I follow that market very closely, and I can tell you that I'm just getting email after email after email of price reductions. Now, they're still not huge price reductions, but they're reducing the prices. And so we're getting a little bit at the same time that the market's becoming even more affordable. We're getting sort of some thawing on the sellers, understanding that, hey, they may not get that price they thought they were going to get. So these two things combined could be very impactful. So a lot happening. I can't believe it's already the middle of October, even, later in October than the middle. But here we are, only a couple more months to go, for the year. And I think that we'll see existing inventory. Right now, we're at about 3.4 months of supply. I think we'll probably, end the year somewhere in the high 3s to 4 months of supply, maybe a little more. And then on the new build, we might actually get closer to 9 months of supply. Right now, we're at about 7.8, something like that. So I think supply is going to continue to build. Now everybody does some tricks, like they take it off the market for 30 days, or they put it back on, it resets the days on market. But those tricks have been working for the better part of, a year and a half. I think that soon, from the desperation I'm starting to hear, in the industry, the desperation I'm seeing in client books, as well as on several, different like Reddits, etc., that inventory is going to keep building. Now, there's a lot going on out there right now. Things are escalating quickly in the Middle East. Not sure where all that goes. And of course, that could have an impact. We might, with an exogenous event, we might get some new form of the COVID forbearance, but or payment deferral. So there could be all kinds of government intervention that could be coming our way. We don't know, but even still, the situation, because and I've talked about this, because a lot of these sales were all cash sales. There are going to be people that are going to need to offload these properties that are not sitting on bank balance sheets, and the government will not intervene there as quickly. So I think that no matter what happens, we are going to see an uptick in inventory at the end of the year, and definitely, increasing into the spring selling season. Okay, so quickly, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, the name of this is kind of late stage shenanigans. And tea leaf reading. And, honestly, what I'm seeing is a whole bunch of people, like, if I had been paying attention, back in 2005, early 2006, wasn't in the industry at the time, but did not understand why everybody was going to Home Depot all the time. Now I do. But if I've been paying attention, I would have seen the same late stage shenanigans, meaning you've got people just trying to offer 1% down. They're trying to buy down rates. Fannie Mae came out with a new multifamily 5% down program. The DSCR lenders, the debt service coverage ratio lenders, are coming out with more aggressive programs, because as people are trying to access credit, their traditional underwriting is not working out for them. And so each of these players in the market are trying to come up with a product that keeps the engine moving. And while at the same time, we've been living on a wave of narrative. And I think that, everybody is working really hard out there right now, especially your industry publications, to say that delinquency is not a problem, that it's, whatever delinquency we're getting right now is just returning back to normal, and that everything's going to be fine. But that's not reality. One thing that I've talked about is we have changed kind of our product mix, meaning that FHA has doubled since 2009. And now FHA is your kind of subprime product, your lower credit score products, around 640, 650, sometimes lower. I think the lowest is 620, maybe 640. And then there's, I'm telling you guys, where there's a will, there's a way. I was watching a really great Forward Guidance with Jack Farley and John Tuig yesterday. John is from within the whole loan industry, and he sees a lot, but he's still singing the same credit quality tune, because I think a lot of people don't really understand how these credit scores were inflated, and they also don't understand how these automated underwriting systems, the way that you can work around them. And so, what does this have to do with MBS? That's where I'm kind of coming to. But understand that FHA, even though theoretically we have a great job market right now, has almost 9% of delinquency across your 30, 60, 90 days delinquent. And that really shouldn't be happening right now. And, now pre-pandemic, delinquency was also starting to tick up, but I think a lot of us understand now that we were on the way to a recession had COVID not happened. So the FHA MBS that I tweeted out something last night is really coming under delinquency pressure, especially in that early stage. Now, late stage delinquency is always going to be lower because of those COVID programs. But a lot of that is running out now. And, I can tell you, as with before, that these modification programs are only so effective because there's very specific investor guidelines that you have to follow to even get a modification. So it's not your bank that's reviewing you. They're using the government sponsored entities, the GSEs, Fannie, Freddie, or FHA or VA guidelines to tell you whether or not you qualify for a modification. So a lot of people have this understanding that it's the banks that do this. That's not accurate. It's the GSEs. Like right now, 95% of our market is backed by Fannie, Freddie, or FHA, VA. 5% is that private market. And this is why a lot of people think we won't have issues in mortgage because that is so low. There's going to be trouble there. There's already trouble there in terms of delinquency. But what's happening in your government books is that sort of government sponsored subprime. They give you down payment assistance or low down payments. There's all kinds of programs out there at the state level where you can even get that 1%, that 3% down payment, and they try to get you into a loan that ultimately many people just cannot afford, especially with increases in taxes and insurance. So, we've got a lot of late cycle shenanigans, which is just going to make this problem worse. But I hope if you're watching this show that, you don't get fooled by them, or you reach out to talk to somebody that can help you navigate this situation. Okay, so mortgage-backed securities, guys. So I'm going to do kind of a two-part series. I'm going to do a little intro here, and then I'll do a deeper dive, hopefully in the next few days before, probably the next week. But as I was saying, so after the GFC, during the GFC, you had a lot of what we call private label securitizations. And that was essentially, private entities, banks would get involved where they take these loans, they package them up and sell them to private investors. Well, what's really changed since the GFC is that's all government. So you think that the bank owns your loan. That's not accurate. So what happens pretty much and there's all different bodies that do this, retail, warehouse. None of that really matters. What you need to know is that essentially you get your loan. You determine, like, so that you go to whomever it is, be it a bank, a credit union, a builder, whomever, and they say, okay, tell me your underwriting profile. And then they'll say, okay, they'll basically take your statistics, your information, put that into a model called automated underwriting, and it's going to say whether you're approved and what products you're approved for. Once you realize that, then you're going to send it off to a pricing engine that's going to tell you, okay, if this person, essentially, if we did this and we locked this rate today, this is what this loan looks like. Here's how it could get priced in the marketplace. And so essentially you lock that loan, you get that loan done, and then what essentially happens to that loan is, from your originator, they're going to try to sell it into the marketplace. And so and there's all kinds of different arrangements that are really, really confusing. I'm going to only focus on a couple, but essentially they're going to try and sell it out there. Maybe they're going to sell it directly to Fannie or Freddie, but they're looking for the best pricing they can get on that particular loan. And so let's say they sell it to Fannie Freddie, they get good pricing on it. Then what Fannie, they kind of, what we say, ship that loan. That loan gets shipped out to the agencies. They then securitize those pools. And once they pool up all those mortgages, and this is where I'd say go back and watch The Big Short before you watch the next one, next video that I do, because then it'll make a lot more sense. They do a lot of visual of this, and so they pool these loans up, with like loans. They then do a securitization. They kind of package that up, and then they take those mortgage-backed securities. And essentially, as investors, you can buy those mortgage-backed securities. Now, as the originator, what you can do if you want to stay in the game, and a lot of people do want to stay in the game, because when you do it correctly, mortgage is a natural hedge, because when origination is up, typically your servicing is down in terms of, your high cost servicing, like delinquency. And then when your delinquency is up, but you're getting a lot of servicing fees and your asset is being appreciated, then usually origination is down. So it can act like a very natural hedge if people did the business correctly. Nobody does it correctly anymore. Nobody. You cannot find a life alone profitability out there if your life depended on it. Everybody sees these two activities as very different. But what a lot of people, because they think they're playing the old game, they don't realize they're playing the new game, is they want to retain those servicing rights. And what is that? That's the right to service your loan for a little strip, a little fee that you get. And then essentially you also get that asset, because this is where it's really confusing, is your right to service that loan becomes a balance sheet asset. And so it's called, your MSR, your mortgage servicing right asset. And so that asset gets valued, so I'll just give you a quick down and dirty, if rates go up, that asset gets valued higher, because the idea is people are going to pay off a lot slower. So your prepay speeds are going to be very slow. Now, if rates go down, then your servicing asset it's going to get devalued, because the idea that people will be paying it off. And this is all about present value cash flow. So essentially you have this very interesting market where really what the entities think that are originating your loan, they're just trying to get that gain on sale by selling it into the open marketplace. Many of them don't even retain those servicing rights, and they don't retain, because you can also retain the mortgage-backed security. They just want to, kind of get it done. But what's happening is they weren't around last time, but what the GSEs are doing is if there are any problems on these loans, like, they go into default, or who knows, like, right now what they're doing is a lot of just sampling QC. Then they'll go back and they'll turn around and make the lender repurchase that loan. And there's a lot of entities involved. And that first person they turn to repurchase it may not be the actual person. That intermediary may turn to somebody else and tell them they have to repurchase it, because it's a very complicated game. So, one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you about mortgage-backed securities is because there was a lot out there about people saying that, oh my gosh, nothing's changed. Look at these MBS, look at these low credit scores that are in these MBS. That is absolutely true, but I will tell you, the market, the people that buy and sell this stuff know what's in these things. They know, and what they're banking on, especially for those government-backed, is that they are of the belief that the government will make them whole. The problem is no one really understands that FHA VA claims process, and how unwieldy it can be, and how little money you can get back. And so it's kind of a more complicated problem. It's not that the people in the industry absolutely knew the credit quality, what these loans were that were being securitized. It wasn't that the banks were trying to hide stuff. That's not what's happening. Full disclosure kind of on these things. Now, am I saying every buyer out there understands what they're buying? No, but it's not like the last time. Exactly, put it that way. But should we still be concerned? Absolutely, because these government-backed FHA VA securitizations, they're already at an almost 9% delinquency. The credit quality of these things are not good. And the biggest problem won't be first that the bonds fail. It's going to be that the companies who originated these loans are going to be in severe liquidity crisis, because a lot of them never imagined in a million years they would have to buy these loans back. And now, what's specifically concerning about the Ginnie Maes, and again, Ginnie Maes, they bundle FHA, VA, USDA, is essentially that, you have to, as the lender, are the one holding that servicing right. If that loan needs a modification, you have to repurchase it out of the pool, okay, do your modification, then re-deliver it into a new securitization, usually at a discount. The discount's not even what I'm most worried about. It's that initial liquidity outlay. And so what people usually have are what we call a repurchase facility, where you can use that facility that from a bank, like liquidity, financing, think of it like a line of credit, to buy those repurchases, rehab them, etc. The problem is that as delinquency increases, typically, your valuations are going to start to come down, and you're going to have to pledge more and more assets to that facility. And then depending on who gave you that facility or line of credit, they may call it in. They may just say it's not worth it anymore. They will have written covenants in it, and you may suddenly realize you're breaching a tangible net worth covenant, when you felt like your balance sheet was fine just a few days ago. And so these are the types of things that can happen. And so I wanted to kind of address what I did feel like was some good dialogue happening on social media, but still, a misunderstanding of someone coming in and looking at this stuff for the first time. So no one's not, most people wouldn't be shocked that these Ginnie Maes have such low credit scores. But what most people don't understand is that the true value of these securities, especially with what's ahead in terms of delinquency. Again, we're at low numbers, but I'm worried about the consumer, not for what's happening today. I'm worried about the increased property taxes and insurance, and I am seeing some crazy stuff out there. 4 times what they paid for insurance last year, 16 times, like, it's just nuts. So, I think that this is just beginning. If nothing happens, if we don't have any credit event, things are status quo, this could take some time to play out. It could take, before we see skyrocketing delinquency, it could be 18 months. We'll definitely start to see foreclosures, delinquency tick up. But again, let me just say, I am worried about all that, but I'm also worried about these all cash sales because I'm seeing the super prime start to list these properties, start to try and offload, and they're not able to do it. So that's just going to create stress across the entire system. And if these things aren't on banks' balance sheet, this could get really disorderly, which is what I said back in January of this year, kind of looking forward as to how this will play out. I think a lot of you realize I'm not the path ahead it's not a fun one, but I don't think this happens immediately. I think this could play out over several years depending on different levers out there that could be pulled. Okay, so that is a little bit about mortgage-backed securities. I just wanted to give you that context. I'll do a deeper dive next week or our part two where we talk about all the different entities that are involved, how that money gets pushed around the system, why when the Fed was buying MBS, we were able to kind of keep this engine moving. So, okay, a lot of stats to go over today. Already a bit longer than usual, but that's okay because I've been bad and haven't really spent as much time with you guys. Okay, so Redfin monthly updates. What this is Redfin has a bunch of different kind of cool metrics. Now, again, I wouldn't look at just Redfin data. They don't have near the amount of listings that say Realtor.com does. So again, this is one source of information. We take it with a grain of salt with all of our other information, but they do some cool metrics that I think are interesting. But okay, so top 10 cities with highest percent of homes with price drops for September. And I think this is a new metric for Redfin. I like it. But so this percentage of homes with price drops for September. So Indianapolis at 50.30%. Now, Indianapolis has been a pretty hot market. This is going to be interesting. Now, the second one will probably get me roasted somewhere. But Denver, 47.9%. Now, but I've been hearing, like just anecdotally, you either have your Denver Bulls that are crazy, but recently I've been hearing from some Denver Bears. So, and this is just being borne out in the data. So I'm excited that I'm going out there next month. Salt Lake City at 43.7%. Again, homes with price drops. Portland at 43.10%. Boise at 42.6%. Winter Garden at 41.7%. San Antonio at 40.3%. Sacramento at 39.6%. Austin at 39%. And Carlsbad at 37.9%. So these price drops are starting to happen. And I think this is just going to be a trend that continues. Okay, so top cities with largest drop in median sale price month over month. Now, a lot of people look year over year, month over month. Guys, there is no one way to look at this data. And I understand, there's a lot of people out there say, don't look at it this way, and blah, blah, blah. We need to look at it every which way. But I'm specifically, when I'm looking at this month over month, I'm looking for that change in the trend versus a year over year. And I think we're starting to see it. So top city's largest drop in median sale price month over month. Palm Springs down at 29%, Sevierville down 21%, Sedona down 16%, Brattleboro down 13%, and Tampa down almost 10%. So basically what Redfin does, it'll give you the median home price for that month. And these are the change in the median home prices month over month from August to September. Those are some pretty marked moves. Okay, now just because Florida, I think all eyes should be on Florida, in my opinion, of what's about to happen, especially since in many of their cities, this is actually an accelerated buying season. because you have your retirees. This is the season that they start coming down in October. And so I think this is where we're going to see the most movement, in the fall and early winter. And so this is the place to watch Florida, which is usually always the place to watch. But top cities in Florida with largest drop in number of homes sold month over month as well as year over year. And I know it's hard to keep track of these numbers when I'm just calling them out. I promise in a few weeks, probably a month or so, I'll get some better visuals now that I'm getting a little bit of help. But Winter Garden down 34.72% month over month and 26.6% year over year. And this is the largest drop in number of homes sold. Fort Myers down at 17.8%, and then up year over year 4.9%. Miami down month over month 15.35% and down year over year 16.2%. Fort Lauderdale down 12.5% month over month and up 4% year over year. Very interesting. Wondering if Fort Lauderdale, because of that high Airbnb saturation in Broward County, if they're getting the memo a little early and you're starting to see movement there as one of these early kind of places where people are listing. There's a ton of inventory there. And then Tampa is down 11% and up year over year at 10%. Again, so this is going to be very fascinating to watch. Okay, now top cities with largest drop of number of homes sold year over year. San Ramon down 47.3%, and that's a huge drop. Portsmouth down 37.5%. Hoboken down 37.2%. Rosemary Beach down 35.7%. Cape May down 35.3%. New York down 32%. And now here's another one that might get me skewered. Raleigh down 30.7% year over year. Now, I've been beaten up on Twitter about Raleigh. People are like, nothing's gonna happen. This market's going to persist forever. So that one is fairly interesting. Stamford, Connecticut also down 30.7%. Sevierville down 29.6%, and San Jose down 29.5%. So some very interesting different geographical locations across the country, with New York in there, Hoboken, Stamford, Connecticut, and then Sevierville, Airbnb, locale, and then Raleigh. That's a very interesting list, and very excited to have this metric because I'm rounding the corner to January where I started tracking a lot of this, so it'll be great to have a year's worth of data. Okay, listings for sale. Of the 71 cities I track, 49 had week over week increases in listings. Last week, that was only 41. So in aggregate, listings for sale were up week over week by 1% and 3.93% to the average. And that was compared to up 0.32% last time and 3.15% to the average. So you can see, I feel like we're starting to gain some momentum. Now, likely we'll see the same little drop at the end of the month. I am definitely seeing this. People take their listings, especially if they've been sitting, they take them off at the end of the month. They wait and then relist them again. So, we'll see some of that, but I can almost feel momentum building. Okay, so top cities with largest percent increase in inventory week over week, and this is from October 7th to the 15th. Encinitas up at 13.9%. Palm Springs at 8.7%. They were number 2 last week as well. Rochester at 5.40%. Bozeman at 5.36%. And Stanford at 4.71%. Now, you can see Stanford was in kind of that top 10 year over year drop in activity. So activity is dropping while inventory is building. Little, contrary to the idea that the seller strike is completely pervasive. So, okay, so top cities largest percent increase in inventory compared to the 15-week average. Bakersfield at 47.29%. I thought last week might be a data issue. The data was still elevated this week, so we'll keep our eye on it, but that's a pretty big move. San Francisco up at 17.82%. Palm Springs at 13.42%. Portsmouth at 13.15%. And Salt Lake City at 12.95%. Now, these are to their average that we're seeing increases. So that's a 15-week average, which is just another way to look at this. We're just trying to look at it from every angle. Okay, now our big top 10. Top cities, largest percent increase in inventory from the start. Boston kicked out Galveston this week, who had been in our top 10. San Francisco, 104%. San Ramon, 95%. Number 3, Bakersfield, 81%. Coeur d'Alene, 75%. Denver, 67.66%. Again, this is net increases since January. Salt Lake City, 50.63%. San Jose, 48%, up from number 8. Austin at 47.7%, down from number 7. Boston at 44.84%, new to the top 10, and then Portland at 42.83%. Again, net increases since January. An honorable mention, Dallas at 41.54%. Okay, so pretty big there. All right, now let's go to single family rental listings. So top cities with highest percent increase of single family listings. So listings for rent, single family rental listings. Listings for rent were up 1.81% week over week, compared to a slight decrease last week, and up 6.82% to their 14-week average. So this is at 47 markets overall. There's a lot of inventory coming on in rental. So Sevierville is up 54.55%, Rosemary Beach 16.67%, Destin 13.56%, Newport Beach 10.93%, and Carlsbad 10.86%. A lot of these are kind of your tourist destinations. I think likely they probably do this seasonally. They take them, from short-term rental listing to long-term rental listing. But these are the types of trends that we're looking for. Okay, now top cities with highest percent increase of single-family rental listings compared to the average. That's Cape May, 119% up. Again, those are very small numbers, but still increase. And the highest I've seen in Cape May. Rosemary Beach at 96% compared to average. Galveston at 35% compared to average. Carlsbad at 27% compared to average. San Diego at 21% compared to average. And Cape May at 100 and, that must be wrong, but probably 18.64% compared to, no, it was left over. So, yep, let me delete that one. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right. And then just because we did the newer ones, going to rush through, want to talk quickly about there was the Real Pages data on rent, the multifamily is just, it's very difficult to gauge the rent price decreases because of the way that they put the information. But what I can see very clearly is occupancy is definitely decreasing. And so basically the year over year decrease, top 5 for decreases in occupancy from Real Pages, and this is multifamily. San Antonio down 2.32%, Boise down 2.3%, Indianapolis down 2.06%, Atlanta down 1.94%, and Augusta down 1.87%. So what we're seeing is occupancy decreasing, while at the same time we know that a ton of multifamily is coming online in these cities, and now you have some pretty crazy occupancies. Average occupancy was 94.4% for the month of September. Let me give you some comparison. So Houston is at 90.5% of occupancy. So That's negative 3.9% to the average. Dallas at 90.7%. Nashville at 91%. Austin at 91%. Chicago at 91%. Now, in all of these cities, multifamily is going to be coming online. It's in the pipeline. And then you also have the built to rent houses that will be coming online. So get ready for some relief in rental properties. And if these things always take time as awareness happens. And so, just hold on because it could take a few months, but awareness in many of these cities is on the way, and it might just be a Christmas present for you. Okay, so quickly on the short-term rental, spend a little bit more time on this last time. So average daily rates right now we're down on average about 1% week over week, and 13% compared to their 15-week average. And so just going to give you a whole bunch of stats here. Sorry, and I'll end with this one today. I know it's a lot of numbers. I hope to get some slides soon. But so week over week, Rosemary Beach was down 54.83% in terms of average daily rate. Month over month, they were down 5.62%, and year over year down 3.92%. Destin, week over week, 42.89% down average daily rate, down 8.17% month over month, and 12.69% year over year. Chicago was down 31.76% week over week, 4.84% month over month, and 11.17% year over year. San Francisco was down 31.11% week over week, 1.21% increase month over month, and then year over year down a negative 0.40%. Portsmouth was down 29.23% week over week with that average daily rate, and up 0.73% month over month, and then up 2.17% year over year. So some of these cities are getting hit harder, but also probably some of them aren't as considered your prime destinations, like the way that, say, Rosemary Beach is, etc. So, okay, guys, I know that was a whole bunch of numbers, a whole bunch of words this time around. This one you might need to take in 2 doses. But just wanted, my apologies for the crazy summer, not being able to spend more time. But things are heating up just as the temperatures are cooling. And so it's going to be a very interesting fall and winter. So we all need to stay tuned. We all also need to stay safe. I hope that everyone's friends and family are safe out there. There's a lot going on in the world. So be kind to one another, I'll say. And I tell myself that as well. Okay, so lots going on. If you have to make a decision out there, I think you all know me, that I would encourage you to try and not make any moves at the moment. But if you have to make a decision, reach out to me. I will try to get back to you. I'm also in the queue. I've got a deep dive to talk about how you can look at your city the same way that I do, so you can start to see whether or not, what types of choices you need to make. Okay, so in the meantime, reach out to me on Twitter at m3_melody, MELODY. You can reach me at Substack, M3Melody Substack, here on YouTube, and of course on LinkedIn, Melody Wright. So thanks again, guys, for joining. Apologies for the delay again. But I think, I'm about to get into a good routine, I hope, because we're going to need it, because there's going to be a lot of information coming at us. So stay tuned, and thanks for joining. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.